people, they buy into you first before they buy into the product.
I'm always thinking about how to combine multiple tools and automate a lot of the grunt work. Oftentimes, when communicating, you maybe over the phone, being very direct, almost to where it's funny. I was surprised at how effective that is.
One thing I would never let go at this point is ChatGPT. It just does everything.
This is the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Each episode, we sit down with bold thinkers and industry trailblazers to uncover the strategies, stories, and sparks of inspiration that drive growth and transformation. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Pass the Pitch. I'm Anna Frazzetto, and today's episode is called Same Job, Different Operating System. So the goal here is not to judge, it's to learn, because the future of work is already here. So we can either adapt or get left behind. I have been obsessed. Adrian knows this. I have been obsessed with this idea lately. And especially since we're all selling, building relationships, working with clients, using technology, dealing with pressure. But depending on your generation, the way you do it can feel like a completely different playbook. So today we're putting a Gen Z professional and a Gen Y leader at the same table, because when two people can be great at the same job but wired differently, it tells us exactly what leaders need to stop assuming. I'm excited for this conversation because it's going to be real, candid, hopefully a little funny too. And if you like these conversations, make sure you subscribe to Pass the Pitch on YouTube, because I have a lot more coming in 2026. All right, let's get started. Let's do some quick intros. Adrian, I'll start with you first. If you can give me your name, what you do. Also, I think it'd be a fun fact. What are you known for at work that people will come to you naturally for? And then we'll bounce to Dilan.
Absolutely. Thanks for the time here, Anna. So yeah, name Adrian. I'm an SDR here at Alex. And then this was actually, Dylan and I had asked each other what we're kind of known for here. He was sharing for me that I'm known here for just being super kind with like everyone that's in the office. And then for having developed a reputation for having built some pretty awesome relationships. We've had some really awesome staff and leaders come to the office to visit. We've had some really big names in the industry take up meetings to see us. And that really came from the rapport relationship building I've done across like over the years. So I would say that's my biggest thing.
That's awesome. That's terrific. Dilan, what about you?
Yeah, awesome. So I'm Dilan Swarmi, same job as Adrian. My goal is to set meetings with potential clients, generate interests. And when I spoke to Adrian, he said that my thing was just being tenacious and getting after it and being able to have really good conversations at the end of the day. But Adrian's knack for building relationships is something that I look up to, and it's something I'm incorporating in my life every day.
I love that. So I love the kindness and the tenacious. I think those are great ingredients, especially when you're working together. Okay, so why don't we kind of jump in here? We have so many topics to talk about. First category, let's talk about technology. And I have to say, I swear this is where the generational gap shows up in about 30 seconds, right? Depending on who you're talking to and how comfortable they are with the tech. So I have a few questions. Let's start with like, what tech do you use every day that makes you better, faster, or just more sane? What's like the first app that you open in the morning, right, for work? What's the one tool you'd never give up? What's what tool that you think is overhyped? So I know I've asked a whole bunch of questions, but why don't we start? And, Dilan, why don't we start with you first?
Right. So for me, the first thing I open is Slack in the morning. And I actually don't think I could live without my calendar. Everything is in there, super organized. Like that's my go-to place for things. But I think when it comes to some of the tools we use or I use, I'm always thinking about how to combine multiple tools and automate a lot of the grunt work that I have to do so that I can ultimately just go ahead and do my job. So there's just this idea, this mindset, like I'm always constantly looking out, oh, this can take out this portion of my work, or I can connect these 3-4 tools into this workflow. Right? That's the kinds of things that I'm usually thinking about when it comes to tools.
No, that's fantastic. And Adrian, what about you?
So this is where we start to differentiate. Like that's something that I started picking up here was like, you can automate all these things. So first thing I look at in the morning is actually LinkedIn. I like just use LinkedIn for absolutely everything, and I'm on it constantly. One thing I would never let go at this point is ChatGPT. It just does everything. I made a professional headshot for myself yesterday. I use it to make workout routines, email drafts, like everything. But something I'm learning from Dylan, and maybe this is a Gen Z thing, is like you can literally automate so many things, and there's a lot of grunt work that is getting in the way.
That is so true, and it's so you mentioned, Dylan, the power of the calendar, and you mentioned, Adrian, the power of like ChatGPT or LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn, my personal favorite. I'm on it all the time too, so I could totally relate 100%. But the importance, calendar being organized, that I think spans across all generations. Like the power of being organized and being in tune with what is coming down the pike, what you need to pay attention to, and it has more of that proactive style. But ChatGPT, I mean, just to name one tool, there's Gemini, there's Claude, there's so many out there. But what a great tool in being able to help you automate your work, right? And I think that's a common challenge that a lot of times does not span the generational gap, where relying on those tools to be able to get you more productive and more efficient. So let me ask, when you don't know something, what do you do first? Do you Google it? Do you YouTube it? Do you go to ChatGPT, or do you just try to problem solve it on your own? Adrian, why don't we start with you?
I'm still thinking about the last one. They automate everything. For me, it's YouTube's actually the first one I go to. And then I will go to ChatGPT to dig into it a little bit more. Like, just example, like I wanted to start calisthenics last week. So I was watching a YouTuber, and then I went to YouTube to go, I mean, YouTube first and then ChatGPT to, hey, can you create a workout routine based on this guy and build that out for me using workout visuals?
Yeah, Adrian's talking about all this working out. It's like
I'm trying, dude. I'm trying.
the people behind, man. What is going on here? Yeah, I think so. I will use a combination of things. I'll say just depending on what the query is that I have. Sometimes I'll go to Google, sometimes I'll go to an LLM, sometimes I'll go to YouTube. I think those are the three that I'll use the most though.
Right. And those are probably the top three. I would have to say I probably go to Google first, but then I like that Google has Gemini. And so therefore, if I want to probe a little bit deeper while I'm in Google, I use Gemini. But yeah, YouTube and ChatGPT, you can't go wrong with either one.
Sure.
Let me ask this. What's one, what you would consider an old school way of working that feels totally insane to you? Like if you were to look at your counterparts that might be at a different generation, you say, this is insanity, that this is how you go about taking care of this task. Who wants to jump in?
Yeah, I'll go in on this one. So I have the pleasure of speaking with staffing, recruiting, talent acquisition leaders who in their past have had to deal with paper resumes and faxing them. And that to me was like, what does that even mean? How does that work? That just doesn't make sense. Like, yeah. So that's the whole different ball.
I couldn't agree with you more. I had a doctor's office ask for a fax. And I literally said, what do you mean a fax? Like I can scan the document in and mail it into you. Like what? Like, no, I don't have a fax machine. I'm like, do they even make fax machines? What are they talking about? Adrian, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I can't imagine, like not using a power dialer, like for like this SDR role, like we're making cold calls. And before this, I used to like dial people one at a time, and I would dial off of an Excel sheet. But today I'm like, how was I not using something like this, or using something that had like a software that uses like sequences to keep track of everything?
Oh, that's a great point. Actually, you're right. When you're literally dialing 9 numbers for every, yeah, that's crazy. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about sales and client interaction. When you're trying to win a new client, what matters most to you? Speed, trust, value? How would you kind of approach it?
We both said the same on this one, actually. We're really big on the trust like side of things. We think that's like super important. For me, I've always taken this quote that people, they buy into you first before they buy into the product. And Like it doesn't matter like how great like the product is. I think they have to like us first to even want to have some interest.
I agree. I agree 100%. I just recently wrote a book called Sales Leadership in Action. And one of the biggest themes in that book talks about trust and building that trust with your client base. So 100% agree. Dylan, now, if you want to disagree, it's going to be awkward for you, Dylan, but what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, this is a question that comes out a bit. Uh, yeah, I want to make Adrian feel awkward on one hand, but on the other hand, I have to agree. No, I'm just kidding. But I have to think, I think trust is so important. And I've been able to see it firsthand with people like Adrian, with other folks on my team who leverage the power of their relationships to gain interest so much more than doing other activities, even if you're offering the same exact thing, right? People are people, right? And I think that makes a huge difference. And so the approach that we like to take, or I like to take sometimes, is how can I do the best to build trust with this person? Not necessarily how can I win their business.
Right. And, people buy from people, right? At the
Yeah.
end of the day. So if that person does not come across credible, then it becomes a very awkward conversation. Let me ask you, maybe you can tell me a little bit about a deal you won. What was the turning point? What did you say or do that made it move forward for you?
For a recent one, like this is something that's been really helpful for me. I've been doing is I think LinkedIn video messaging is like the greatest thing of all time. I
Mm.
think that's the way to do it. Um, I think if you're able to build a little bit of rapport building through like some banter on LinkedIn, and then you follow it up with like a LinkedIn video message where they really get to see your sincere excitement and why you're reaching out to them, I think that just kicks up the relationship like a whole nother level. So I've had a handful of meetings come in just by doing that.
Oh, that's terrific. Okay, that is definitely an approach that I have not personally tried myself. I have gotten LinkedIn videos, but I have not tried it personally myself. Dylan, from your thoughts?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn video is great, but my mind went to something almost on the other end, which is oftentimes when communicating, you maybe over the phone, being very direct, almost to where it's funny. I was surprised at how effective that is. Like, yeah, I'm totally calling you out of the blue, something like that, or you just call it out. Like, I want to book a meeting with you. I'm totally calling out of the blue. Like that has actually been way more effective. When that actually worked for me, I was genuinely shocked. But and it's not for everybody. Some people will be like, nope. And then some people will be like, ha ha ha, like tell me more, right? Because I think people are so
Right.
used to speaking with folks who try to do this dance around the conversation or just a lot of this slop. And so when you kind of own up to the awkwardness or the seemingly, the weird element that's going on in the conversation, I think a lot of people are willing to let their guard down and at least hear more. And I know that's something that I would individually appreciate if I was on the receiving end.
Oh, I agree 100% because I have been on the receiving end of that, and I always appreciate when a salesperson is being honest and direct, as opposed to with this long-winded story explaining the company. I haven't even had a chance to say hello yet. It's an immediate turn off where I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm not interested, regardless of what you're talking about. I'm not interested anymore.
Oh no,
Since we're talking,
Anna would
yeah.
have hung up on me.
Yeah, Adrian.
No, I would never. uh, let's talk a little bit about, since we're talking about communications, right? So let's talk about something people love to debate. Are Gen Z sellers more direct, which is interesting based on what we were just talking about, than older sales? Or are you just more efficient and less interested in small talk? So, Dylan, I'd like to start with you first.
Yeah. So it's interesting. When I say that I was more effective at being direct, it was not something that came natural to me. I actually feel like Gen Z people are less direct. I think there's this less businessy feel about it. Like I just want to kind of get to know you as a person. And that may not be small talk, but that may be things about other personal things I notice about you, or doing something creative with your outreach rather than just, oh, this is the pitch, this is why we have the value, this is why you need to buy from us. I feel like with our generation, the offer is packaged a bit more creatively, and that's something that I try to lean into.
No, that's great. And Adrian, your thoughts?
Well said. Well, I definitely line up with the, hey, let's have some small talk here. Like, even for the people that want to be direct, I'm like, yeah, but don't you want to chat a little bit? Like, I just feel like that rapport is like so important. Like, why do you want to skip out on that? But I'm learning how to like more adapt to like Dylan's style. Like, hey, there are times where you just have to shoot your shot and just be direct and be efficient. And that's the way people want to be spoken to. Like, I can't build rapport with everybody.
Exactly. You know what? I think also COVID kind of changed that for a lot of us, because what happened was you can have small talk and become so natural when you're going into somebody's office, and
Yeah.
you can notice that they have a picture of a dog, or that they, like to jet ski, and you can immediately say, "Oh, wow, you like to jet ski? Where'd you jet ski? I love to jet ski." And you establish that level of connection. But when you're doing it, when you go into a world that was 100% like Zoom or Microsoft team meetings, it became almost impossible. I know, as I was coaching salespeople, they were struggling with, I don't even know how to get started. Like, the small talk gets thrown out the window, which is hard,
Mhm.
because a lot of times I find it similar to you, Adrian. I kind of use that as my starting ground, right? Is the small talk, and then
Mhm.
evolve into what the conversation is going to be. So it'll be interesting to see what the next 5 to 10 years look like. What does relationship building actually mean to you? If I was to ask you that question, coming from two different perspectives, Adrian, from your thoughts, what does that mean when somebody says relationship building?
I really like that question actually. Like, when I thought about that one, I thought we're dropping like these barriers that you're in your role, I'm in my role. Like, we really are just like two human beings at the end of the day. And like relationship building to me is like how fast or like when can we actually like drop these barriers and just talk to each other as like I'm a dude, you're a dude. And like when that relationship is there, then I feel like it's a just a natural byproduct that I'm going to want to support you in what you're doing and you're going to want to support me in what I'm doing, like regardless of what it is. And I think that's how a lot of my like meetings have been able to get booked. It's like, all right, we just like each other. So like let's support each other.
Right. And don't you find it that that kind of builds trust a little bit faster and deeper by having that level of candor?
100%. 100%. Yeah, I would say if we didn't have that, I think it's pretty likely they wouldn't show up or want to continue chatting with me.
And Dylan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts. So to succeed in my job, I don't necessarily need to build a relationship. That's a weird thing to say. And I think it's very different from the ways of the past, right? Sometimes we'll just need to give a quick value and people are interested, they're interested. And then you set the meeting right there. And so there isn't really a relationship, but you still do your job successfully. However, I still believe personally in the importance of building relationships. And I think of it kind of like growing a plant. So I noticed this because people would say, I'm going to some place to build relationships, and they would just meet a bunch of people and leave. And that to me is like planting something in the ground by just throwing a seed in the dirt, putting water and leaving. And you didn't grow, you didn't, you're not growing a plant. You just put a seed in some dirt. And that's the same way I think a lot of people treat it. And so it really takes a lot of nurturing over time. And maybe that window of time might be short or it might be long, but you have to put in a lot of effort intentionally at multiple points. And that's what to me building a relationship is, right? There's this idea of building, not just like one and done. And so that's I think a really important piece of it to me that I'm trying to incorporate in my life.
Right. And that's so important. Also, don't you find that it kind of changes depending on the generations that you're selling to? Right? Because I think if you sell to another fellow Gen Zer, for example, they might be 100% in lockstep with your approach and your style. But meanwhile, if you sell to a baby boomer, they might be taken back by like the directness, or not the need to establish
Oh, that's
that pleasantry up front.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. Like, and sometimes if I'll just say something quickly too, or a message, and it'll be lowercase, it'll have some emojis in there. Like, I'm pretty confident if I send that to a Gen Z, I might get a very similar style of reply. But for a baby boomer, that reply, they might reply, but it won't definitely look the same as mine. And you definitely feel like, oh, this might be a clashing of styles, or maybe they'll appreciate the authenticity of this Gen Z guy. So people might.
totally
Yeah.
Totally ditto on that, Dylan. I
Yeah.
feel like if I'm gonna send like a GIF to someone,
Yeah.
like if it's a Gen Z, like we're gonna have a cool banter. But if it's like to a boomer or someone, I'm like, oh no, I'm like playing with fire right now. I hope they receive this well.
Right, right. So that is like part of, I think that's part of the sales challenge that we all face, right? Because we're all selling to different, different titles, different positions, different generational, representation. And therefore you have to be a little bit sensitive to what works and what doesn't work.
Thank you for listening to the Pass the Pitch podcast with Anna Frazzetto. Don't forget to subscribe and share. In part 2, Adrian and Dilan discuss follow-up, Gen Z, and the future of sales, and how adapting your style builds trust faster. See you then.